watching Miami Temple Kids.
We trust in you, Jesus. You're all that we need. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. You give us hope and life that's forever. You make us bold and we stand together. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. We're off on this journey, there's no looking back. With Jesus to lead us, we're on the right track. Oh, 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 oh. Wide open spaces for wide open eyes. We're looking ahead for the next big surprise. Oh, 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 oh. We trust in you, Jesus. You're all that we need. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. You give us hope and life that's forever. You make us bold and we stand together. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. We're off on this journey, there's no looking back. With Jesus to lead us, we're on the right track. Oh, 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 oh. Wide open spaces for wide open eyes. We're looking ahead for the next big surprise. Oh, 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 oh. We trust in you, Jesus. You're all that we need. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. You give us hope and life that's forever. We stand together. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. Trusting in you. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. Trusting in you. Trusting in you. We're trusting in you. Trusting in you.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Sabbath. Today is July 11. I hope you've been enjoying our online Sabbath School lesson review. Now, beginning today, our primary, juniors, and early teen classes will be having Zoom lesson. So if you're interested in joining one of our lessons, please email me to mtchildman@gmail.com. Let me know your name and what grade you're in, and we would love to add you to one of our classes. Now, our Cradle Roll and kindergarten teachers will continue to do their Sabbath School lesson reviews. Then the primary, juniors, and early teens will have videos that are related to your lessons. And at the end, we'll have our closing. So again, if you're interested in joining our Zoom lessons for the primary, juniors, and early teens, email me to mtchildman@gmail.com. We'll see you guys later. Bye.
Mrs. Russell? Mrs. Russell?
Hi, boys and girls. Welcome to Cradle Roll Sabbath School. That was a nice nap. And today I'm dressed in my pajamas. Are you in your pajamas? Yeah, you. I see you. Do you have a pillow? A stuffed animal? Get cozy for this story. It's about Samuel. Samuel was a wonderful boy, and he loved to help. Where do you live? Do you live in a house with your family? Samuel lived in a church. He lived in the temple, and he lived there with priest Eli, with the pastor. Now, Samuel was a great, wonderful boy. He loved to help in the temple. He would get the broom and he would sweep the floor. And whenever Samuel was helping in the temple, he was helping Jesus. So you should help too by sweeping the floors. Then his favorite thing was to make sure that the lamp in the temple was shining bright, and he would dust the furniture, he would dust everywhere. But his favorite was to make sure that the bread in the temple was set out. And he enjoyed having the bread. That's delicious. Do you have bread in your house? Well, whenever he swept the floor, whenever he dusted the lamp and set out the bread, he was also helping the Lord. That's what Jesus wants us to do. Then the sun went down. The stars came out. And Samuel got his favorite blanket and he went to bed. He was so tired from working. And as he would look out the window, he would see the stars. And the stars would go, twinkle, twinkle, little star. And then he knew that Jesus loved him. And then he went fast asleep. Everybody go to sleep. Everybody snore. And then Samuel heard a voice.
Samuel.
I think that's Eli. And he would get out of bed and he ran. Everybody run. And he would say, Eli, did you call me?
No, go back to sleep.
And so he went back to sleep. He got his pillow and he went to sleep.
Samuel.
That's Eli again. Everybody get up, run. Eli, did you call me?
No, go to sleep, Samuel.
So he got his pillow, he went back to sleep, and he remembered that Eli said if he hears a voice again, then he should do something special.
Samuel.
Speak, Lord, your servant is listening. And God gave Samuel a wonderful message that he was only able to have. All because Samuel was a helper. Are you a helper? I hope so. From the top of my head to the tip of my toes, I will be Jesus' child wherever I go. Bye, boys and girls.
Rocky Railway. Kindergartners. Hi. Happy Sabbath. Vacation Bible School is starting next week. Have you picked up your bag yet? JL, this is yours if you're watching. So you got to come and get it. Now, what's in the bag? All kinds of goodies. You get a t-shirt like this. See? There it is. You get a bandana. You get craft stuff. You get a book for VBS. You get the memory verse card. All kinds of cool stuff is in this bag. So you got to get it because when we have VBS online, you're going to need all the stuff in this bag. Okay, so parents, if you haven't picked up your bag yet and you registered, come and get your bag. Okay. I was telling you last week about a special birth. This boy named Samuel. And Samuel, for his whole life, he was dedicated to God. So his mom brought him to the temple to Eli. Now, Samuel now is about your age, kindergartners. And he's a great help to Eli because Eli's pretty much blind. So Samuel is doing a lot of the work in the temple. So one night they went to bed as usual. Now, remember, they're not sleeping on regular beds like we are. This might have been a mat like this that Samuel slept on. And he would just put it on the floor. No nice soft pillows. No. Just like this. And that's what they were used to sleeping on. So he would sleep on that. So they went to bed. And in the middle of the night, while Samuel was sleeping and Eli was sleeping, Samuel heard a voice. Samuel, Samuel. And he woke up and he jumped out of bed and he ran to Eli and he said, "Here I am, Eli. How can I help you? What do you want me to do?" And Eli said, "Oh, Samuel, I didn't call you. Go back to bed." So Samuel turned around and he went back to bed. And and pretty soon you were sleeping again. Now, after a little while, the voice came again. Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel woke up again and he ran. He was a very obedient boy and he ran to Eli and he said, here I am, Eli. What do you want me to do? Eli said, Samuel, I didn't call you. Please just go back to bed. Samuel was like, okay. So Samuel went back to bed and he was sleeping. And the voice came a third time. Samuel, Samuel. Samuel jumped up again, woke up, ran to Eli, said, Eli, here I am. What do you want me to do? And Eli realized that God was talking to Samuel. Now, Samuel had never heard God's voice. So Samuel didn't know that it was God talking to him. So Eli said, Samuel, I need you to go back to bed. But if you hear the voice again, I want you to say, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. So Samuel said, okay. And he went back. And I think he tried to sleep. But of course he was nervous now because he was going to hear the voice. And I don't think he went back to sleep. I think his eyes were like wide open. And the voice came again, Samuel, Samuel. And this time Samuel got up. He said, speak, for your servant is listening. He even forgot to say Lord. He was so nervous. And God was happy with Samuel. And he knew that Samuel would listen to him. And he gave Samuel a message to give to Eli. And he knew that Samuel would deliver that message to Eli. Now, after this, Samuel would hear God's voice all the time. And he became God's messenger to the people. And he helped Eli a lot in the temple. Now, if you want to make a craft this week, oh, wait, we didn't do the memory verse. The memory verse says, speak, Lord, for your servant, point to yourself, is listening. Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. Now, where in your pretend Bibles is that found? 1 Samuel 6, verse 9. Okay, ready? Go. 1 Samuel 6, verse 9. Close it. What does it say? Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. Now, if you want your craft this week, could be like, you can make some big ears like this and put it on a piece of paper, make it as big as your head. But you need 2 ears, right? So here's your other ear and you pin it. Well, make sure it's over your ears because you're going to put it on like this. So it goes right over your ears because remember, you're listening now to whatever God says. And maybe you can wear it outside if your parents let you go outside. And if your neighbor asks you, why are you wearing those ears? You can tell him the story of Samuel. And you can tell him how Samuel listened to God and you will listen to God also. You can tell him that story. So that's your craft for this week. Now remember your memory verse? What does it say? Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. Where's it found? 1 Samuel 6, verse 9. Until next time, kindergartners. Bye. Remember to come pick up your VBS stuff. All right. Bye.
Hi everyone, it's Aunt Fernita. Today's story is called United in Service. The memory verse is from Acts chapter 1, verse 14. It says, they all joined together constantly in prayer. Today's message is prayer prepares us for service. Have you ever had an argument with your best friend? What did it feel like? How did it change how you felt about your friend? Was it easy to do things together after that? Jesus' disciples argued often. Read on to find out what changed them. Jesus chose 12 men to be his disciples or special friends. They were with him in the beginning when John baptized him in the Jordan River. Every day they listened to his wonderful stories. They went with him to the temple. They heard him explain the scriptures. Best of all, they saw Jesus heal people. They knew about whole towns where no sick person lived because Jesus had been there. Just imagine it. Not one sick person in the whole town. Yet, in spite of all the good things he had done, some people put Jesus to death. His disciples were around when he was crucified on the cross. Jesus had tried to warn them of what was going to happen to him. He had told them that he was going to die and rise again, but they had not listened or wanted to understand. They had had their own ideas. They had thought Jesus would become a king on earth. They had expected him to set up a kingdom and free them from the Romans. And they had often argued among themselves as to who would be the most important disciple then. James and John had even gotten their mother involved. She had asked Jesus if they could sit on either side of him when he became king, and that had made the rest of the disciples angry. After the resurrection, Jesus had spent 40 days with the disciples and some of his other followers. He had explained the prophecies about his birth and death. He had talked to them about the kingdom of God. They had finally begun to see that Jesus was not going to fight the Romans. They had finally understood that Jesus would go back to heaven. However, he had promised that they would not be alone. He would send the Holy Spirit to be with his followers. Before Jesus went to heaven, he had given them very clear instructions. They were to stay in Jerusalem and wait for the Holy Spirit. This time, they listened, and they obeyed. While they were waiting, something wonderful happened. They learned to know one another better. All the old arguments did not seem important anymore. They became unified in wanting to serve God. The Bible says they were all with one accord in one place. They wanted to spread the good news about Jesus. They wanted to tell others how he came to this world and died for all people. They wanted everyone to know that Jesus went back to heaven. They were ready to tell others that Jesus is coming back to take us to live with him. Prayer helped unite them. Prayer helped them serve God. Prayer can do the same for us today.
There are 3 books in the Bible known as the wisdom literature: Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Job. The first, Proverbs, showed us that God is wise and just.
Yeah, we learned that God has ordered the world so that it's fair. The righteous are rewarded, the wicked are punished. In other words, you get what you deserve.
But then we meet Ecclesiastes, who observes, people don't always get what they deserve.
Yeah, he said the world isn't always fair, that life is unpredictable and hard to comprehend, just like smoke.
And this makes you wonder, okay, well, is God wise and just?
Exactly. And so it's that question that is being explored in the final book of wisdom, Job.
All right, let's dive in.
So Job begins with a strange story that takes place up in the heavens, which are described something like a heavenly command center. So God is there with these angelic creatures called the sons of God, and they're all there reporting for duty.
And God points out this guy Job, his servant, showing how righteous and good he is.
And then one of these angelic creatures approaches. He's referred to in Hebrew as the Satan.
The Satan? Who is this?
Well, this word is actually a title, which literally means the one who is opposed. So out of this whole crew, he is the one questioning how God is running the world. And he proposes that Job might not actually love God, that he's only a good person because God rewards him. If God were to take away all of the good things he gave to Job, then we would see his true colors.
So he thinks Job is just working the system?
That's exactly right. Maybe he's obeying just to get what he wants.
So God agrees to this experiment and allows the Satan to inflict suffering on Job.
And Job loses everyone and everything that he cares about. It is devastating. And remember, he deserves none of this. God himself said so.
The remarkable thing is that in the midst of all this suffering, Job still praises God.
At least for chapters 1 and 2. But then in chapter 3, we find out how he's really feeling inside. He unleashes this poem that reveals this devastation. It's a long, elaborate curse on the day that he was born.
After this, some of Job's friends come to visit him to offer their help. And all of them are like, Job, you must have done something horribly wrong to deserve this. After all, we know God is just, and we know the world is ordered by God's justice and fairness, so you must be getting what you deserve.
And for the next 34 chapters, the friends and Job go back and forth in very dense Hebrew poetry. His friends keep speculating about why God might have sent such suffering, and they even start making up lists of hypothetical sins that Job must have committed. But after each accusation, Job defends his innocence.
And Job is innocent.
He is. He's also on an emotional roller coaster. At some moments, he's very confident that God is still wise and just.
Yeah, in other moments, he's doubting God's goodness.
He even comes to accuse God of being reckless, unfair, and corrupt. So by the end of the dialogues, Job demands that God come and explain himself in person, and God does so. He comes in the form of a great storm cloud.
Now, God doesn't give Job a direct answer. He doesn't tell Job about the conversation with the Satan.
Yeah, he does something very different. He takes Job on a virtual tour of the universe. He shows Job how grand the world is, and he asks him if he's even capable of running it or understanding it just for a day. He shows Job how much detail there is in the world, things that we might see every day but really don't understand at all. But God does. He knows it all intimately. He pays attention to the beauty and operations of the universe in ways that we haven't even imagined and in places that we will never see.
Then to conclude, God shows Job two wondrous beasts and brags about how great they are.
Yeah, they are dangerous. I mean, they would kill you without even thinking about it. And God says they're not evil. They're actually a part of his good world.
And then that's it. That's God's whole defense. It's kind of weird. I mean, what was this all about?
It seems to be this. From Job's point of view, it looks like God is not just. But God's perspective is infinitely bigger. He's dynamically interacting with a whole universe of complexity when he makes decisions. And this is what God calls his wisdom.
So Job asking God to defend himself is actually kind of absurd.
He couldn't comprehend this kind of complexity even if he wanted to.
So where does this leave us?
Well, it leaves Job in a place of humility. He never learned why he suffered, and yet he's able to live in peace and in the fear of the Lord.
But that's not where the book ends, because after this, God restores to Job double everything he had lost. And this, again, is surprising. I mean, is this a reward? Is God saying, congratulations, Job, you passed this elaborate test?
No, I mean, the whole book just made the point that Job losing everything was not a punishment, and so now getting it back isn't a reward.
So why does he get it back?
Well, apparently, God, in his wisdom, decided to give Job a gift. We don't know why. But what we do know is that Job is now the kind of person who, no matter what comes, good or bad, he can trust God's wisdom.
And that's the book of Job and the end of our wisdom series.
These biblical books of wisdom are amazing. Each one offers a unique perspective on the good life, and you need to hear all of them together as you learn to live with wisdom and in the fear of the Lord.
Hello, my early teens. How are you? Well, I hope. Well, this week we're going to do our lesson review a bit differently. I will play a video, then make some closing remarks. Now, this week we studied lesson 2, which is entitled Handling Emotions, an Everyday Man. And our memory text is taken from Psalms 51 verse 10, and it says, God, create a pure heart in me and renew a right attitude within me. That's the International Standard Version. Now enjoy the video.
Sometimes I feel happy, sad, worried, angry,
Excited! Disgusted. Frightened?
Life is full of feelings, whether they're good ones or not so good ones. None of us can help having them. It's just how our brains are wired. In fact, experts say there's a good reason we have different feelings. They can help us get along with others, protect us from danger, or tell us when something's not right and needs to change. But sometimes our feelings can be more intense or harder to handle than usual, like when we get worried.
I worry about practically everything, every slightest thing.
Even like the smaller things at school also get me really worried and a bit nervous about even coming to school.
Or angry.
Sometimes I feel really annoyed at my brothers and sisters because I'm the middle child and I feel like I'm always a peacekeeper, and it just makes me really annoyed and angry because it just never stops.
Or sad.
My mum got diagnosed with breast cancer, and at that time I just remember feeling really sad and worried that she wasn't going to survive and that I didn't have my mum with me anymore.
I used to be constantly bullied over and over again. I never really told anyone about it. I just bottled the feelings up inside me.
Experts say if you ignore these feelings or let them take over, they can end up having a bad impact on your mental health. Mental health is the way you think or feel about yourself and what's going on around you. Just like your physical health, if you don't take good care of it, it can make everyday things harder and eventually could turn into a bigger problem. So how do you keep your mental health healthy?
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Kiralee is a child psychologist, and part of her job is talking to kids about just that.
Like these guys were telling me before about times when they felt really sad or worried or angry. So what is the best way to kind of deal with something like that?
Okay, so let's talk about worry. So there are some different things we want to do when we feel worried, and one of them is to try and think about exactly what it is that's making us worried. Something else you can do is to write down some calm thoughts, some "this is not the end of the world" thoughts. You also want to try and act in brave ways, because when you act in a way that's brave and you're not avoiding something, then that tells your brain, oh, maybe we can cope with this after all. A good thing to do when you're mad is to try and take a really deep breath and make your muscles as floppy as you can. Breathe in. Breathe out, slower and floppy. Another thing that you can do when you're mad is to try and get yourself away from the thing that's making you mad. But sometimes you can't, right? Like you're in the car or you're at the tea table or you're in the classroom and you can't walk away. So you're going to take 30 seconds to think about what you would spend $1,000 on, right? And if you take a little holiday in your brain, that can help you then think a bit more carefully. Talk a little bit about your sadness. You might like to paint or draw a picture or play music or write a letter. Something else that's really important to do when you're feeling sad is exercise. That actually helps your brain work better and it helps you feel better. So it's really important when you're sad is to kind of make yourself do stuff that's important to you.
Well, what makes me happy is playing the guitar and just reading.
When I'm worried, I like watching movies.
A good way that I use to make myself calm down is I draw. So instead of leaving the sadness and anger inside, I put it onto a piece of paper.
Overall, Kiralee says that communication is the most important part of dealing with worry, sadness or anger.
It's really important to try and tell somebody. Particularly an adult can be useful, but even if it's another friend.
And remember, you're never the only one feeling the way you do.
And that was our Sabbath School lesson review for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember, our VBX begins this Monday, July 13th. On our website, there's already a button that says VBX where you guys can download crafts and activities for those who didn't get a chance to do the registration with us. But everybody's welcome to watch our videos and join in the singing and the learning and the fun, okay? Now, parents, between now and the 11 a.m. service, remember, go to miamitemple.org where you can find the lesson so you can review with your children, all right? We'll see you next week. Bye.
This train is bound for glory. This train is bound for glory. This train is bound for glory. Jesus made a place in heaven for me. This train is bound for glory. 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 Jesus made a place in heaven for me. This train is bound for glory. This train.
Okay, now let's bring it down.
This train is bound for glory. This train is bound for glory. This train is bound for glory. Jesus made a place in heaven for me. This train is bound for glory. This train. Oh, this train is bound for glory. This train is bound for glory. This train is bound for glory. Jesus made a place in heaven for me. This train is bound for glory. This train. This train. This train. This train.
You're watching Miami Temple Kids.